And we're back with some tater tot hot take. Yes, he is back. The best guest of 2021, Cole Munson. He's wearing the hat. We love it. We actually do love it. So
for sure.
Cole, it's you got to defend your title now. We're going into 2022 or going into 2023, but this is for 2022. So you better have your fan base ready to go because people want the crown back. There's some people that want the crown back. So how you feeling?
My fan base travels, Matt. My fan base travels with me. It doesn't matter where we're at.
Yeah.
My fan base is there.
I'm going to have to look at I will have to look at how those votes got in because I feel like there are a lot of repeats. I think Case agrees with me too.
A lot of stuff in the ballot box in that one, but I'll give you credit on it. You wanted the win, you went out and got it by any means necessary. Respect the game.
Listen, if you got to deflate some footballs to win some games, put some bounties on people's heads, you got to do what you got to do to get some wins out here, guys.
Absolutely, because one deflated football equals 28 points, if everybody remembers that correctly.
Well, then we got that. All right. Well, let's get started with some Wolves here. So, Cole, so far, I don't really know how to describe it. They're 13-13. They just lost to Portland this past yesterday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
What's been going on, man? I mean, I thought we're supposed to remember you said you took the over on 52 wins, I believe. So what's going on with the Wolves so far? What do you think?
Well, one of the biggest problems that they're running into right now, especially early on in the year, was an effort issue. You're just looking at it, you'd watch the game and there's just guys just not putting in the effort on the defensive end. I believe like the first about 2 or 3 games, we were setting records for the amount of wide open threes given up in a game. Now, as it's kind of transitioned, we've started to play a lot better as time has gone on. We're starting to build up some confidence, build some wins. We're still not fully there yet, though. The biggest issue right now, especially with Cat out, is on the offensive end. We just get stalled sometimes. We just can't quite get going. We don't have the floor spacing that we did last year. So until Cat gets back, we're going to struggle a bit on the offensive end. But as we'll probably get into once we start talking about Cat a bit more, things aren't all peachy when he's on the court either. So they've got a lot of stuff to work through yet.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, I've tuned into a couple games so far, and I still think defensively there's an issue, and I don't know why that is. I feel like a lot of guys aren't taking ownership of what they need to do defensively. But I mean, you look at the stats. I mean, right now your top point getter is Anthony Edwards. Right behind him is Towns. Obviously, he's out with an injury, but D'Lo's been playing pretty well with Cat out. So I'll kind of give the Wolves that. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't think they're, for lack of a better word, simpatico. They're not cohesive whatsoever with kind of how they're dealing with Gobert, with D'Lo. How's it going with Ant? I mean, I think Ant sometimes kind of gets into his own head a little bit, but when he's on, oh my gosh, he's probably one of the best players in the NBA. But I think they're still going through this growing pain of what is this team going to look like. Now, if they get on a run, that'd be great. I mean, you have the talent to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Question is, when are you going to get Cat back, and when is he going to, take charge somewhat? Because, working with him and Gobert, I think has been kind of tough. I mean, wouldn't you agree with having both Cat and Gobert on the floor at the same time?
Yeah, it's certainly an adjustment, especially on the offensive end where you've got 2 bigs. You don't have a lot of the movement that you did last year. For as much as Rudy Gobert brings on the defensive and offensive end, Vando was a much faster and more mobile player than Rudy is. So there was a lot more versatility there.
Sure.
So there's definitely an adjustment period that needed to happen. That keeping that in mind, though, Mike Conley, if you remember when he first got traded to Utah, was pretty rough. It took them a long time to kind of get adjusted to playing with Rudy Gobert, to get adjusted to playing with that team in general. So I want to give D'Lo and the rest of the team a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. It can take a little bit of time. They've never really had a rim running center like that. D'Lo had it for 1 year playing with Jared Allen back in Brooklyn, but since then he hasn't had that. Anthony Edwards has never played with someone like that. A lot of our team really hasn't played with anyone like that because they've had Cat as a center who likes to spread the floor. Right. So with that adjustment period, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt for a bit longer here, kind of see how it transitions. We need to bank easy wins, though, so that we're not staring up trying to scratch and claw our way into the bottom end of the playoffs here at the end of the year. So you do need to continue that learning process, but you still need to find a way to win games.
It's true. And with that way, so without Cat, just kind of with the Cat injury, I mean, do you think that they could go on a little bit? I mean, obviously they lost the other night, but do you think that with Cat out, is this helping the Wolves in some aspects? So they don't have to worry about with Cat down low and whatnot. You can have Gobert, you can have D'Angelo Russell. It frees up, D'Lo a little bit too. Edwards, same deal. Do you think that this is helpful for the Wolves in some aspect? Obviously, the injury's bad. Don't get me wrong. Then we want Cat on the floor, but even without Cat, do you think that Cat could even come up to speed too?
I think the injury in the short term will help them. I think that in the microscope of about a week or two here, or essentially for as long as he's hurt, it raises our floor because you're not sitting there having to try and figure out how to play the two together. You're not sitting there constantly having to worry about which mouth to feed and how that's going to work out. It simplifies things and makes things a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
That being said, you need Cat to be able to win anything significant. Yeah. You cannot not have Cat as part of this formula if you want to make any sort of run, if you want to be any sort of meaningful playoff team. By meaningful, I mean not the 9-10, 8-9-10 seed.
Play-in,
Yeah, not in the play-in portion of it. So does it raise our floor? Yes, it raises our floor. We're going to win more games in the immediate future. But if you want any chance to be able to do anything with this team substantial, you need to have Cat as part of that formula.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, at some point it's all gotta mesh. And I think Finch is doing a good job so far, but I also think that he's challenging these guys to be like, hey, you got to take some ownership of some of this stuff too. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, but hopefully he gets back and he gets back healthy. Voldy, we talked about D'Lo with Callahan School of Logic. We talked about how I thought if he's just really bad and everything, don't resign him, just start over, go from there. But what it came down to is I think that they should, because who are you going to get even before the show, we're talking about this, in the meantime, who are you going to get after that? So I believe I asked you this for Callahan School of Logic, but do you agree of re-signing D'Lo at the end of the season? Then I'll pass it on to Cole here. What do you think?
I know that we talked about it obviously a couple weeks ago with School of Logic and everything. I'm just looking at it from the perspective. I mean, you could potentially go out there and you could re-sign him, but at what cost? Is he now at the point of his career where maybe taking a pay cut for his performance over the last couple seasons warrants such a big contract? Or given the fact that he could quite possibly lure in some other markets and other teams that could use the services elsewhere, is that going to, basically say, hey, I can get a better deal here, but if I want to stay here, I can certainly take a pay cut. But if it's really going to depend on all him being able to distinguish whether or not that he is going to be able to distinguish whether or not that he wants to, take that pay cut or not here to stay with the Timberwolves. But do we resign him? I think we should, honestly.
Yeah.
You just never know.
All right. Cole, what do you think?
So let me clarify this here real quick. The worst case scenario is you let him walk for nothing. You cannot let him walk for nothing. If you look at the Timberwolves cap situation, if you let him walk for nothing, we're over the cap already, and you cannot go sign someone. We do not fall underneath the salary cap. So if you let him walk, you can't use that space on anybody else.
Right.
So getting that option out of the way, it comes down to me to two options. Now, if I had to make a rough estimate for what that price tag is going to be, I'd say 4 years, 100 million, or about 25 million a year. That means you are going to be committing for the long-term future of a D'Lo and Ant backcourt for probably the next 4 years at least, because there's no way you let Ant walk. So are you comfortable for the next 4 years being locked in of a rotation or of a big four of D'Lo, Ant, Cat, and Rudy, with having to get minimum pieces around them because of the cost that you're going to have to pay?
Right.
So that being said, assuming you can't let them walk for nothing, if they decide that they don't want to re-sign him, I've got a couple other options here that I want to run past you guys.
Okay, hit me.
All right, so I was playing with the NBA trade machine a little bit. It's a good buddy of mine when I get bored. Okay, so let's get this out of the way first. There's not going to be a lot of teams that are going to be trading for D'Lo as a win now piece, as like a championship level. This is the last piece we need to add. $31 million is a lot of money. Those teams can't afford that. So what this is going to be likely is he's got 1 year left. We need to unload that money. And for us, we're going to be looking at it as we got another year of a point guard that we can play. So that being said, I got 4 options here. Number 1, D'Angelo Russell for Mike Conley and Rudy Gay. The key there is Utah would get out from underneath Mike Conley and Rudy Gay, which would have another year on their contracts, and then they would be able to accept on money for picks.
Interesting.
That doesn't sound too bad. I mean, Mike Conley's still playing at a high level. Rudy Gay's, would you say it's pretty good 6-man still? Is the best way to put it.
He wouldn't be a 6-man for us.
He would
probably be 8th, 9th man. He would be coming off the bench as kind of like a Torian Prince style.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so he's not to that level anymore. I kind of like it. I kind of like it. I think Mike Conley's still got a couple years left, and I think I'd do that one. No, definitely. Voldy?
Experience would help. Having a guy like Mike Conley, obviously Rudy Gay too, and having that experience, especially as a 8th, 9th guy, and you run into a situation where maybe some guys aren't just performing to the level they should be, or maybe some injuries start to rack up. Obviously, having those guys coming off the bench would be big too.
Nice. All right, next one.
Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis-Bertans for D'Angelo Russell.
I wish I knew who those people were.
Dinwiddie,
Dinwiddie does sound familiar.
No, I don't think I'd do that one.
Don't think so?
I wouldn't do that one.
So obviously you would be looking in that scenario, you would need to view Dinwiddie as an upgrade over D'Lo. And then you'd be absorbing Bertans' contract, which is at about $16 million a year for the next 3 years. So it's a rough contract to take on, but you would be getting another year of Spencer Dinwiddie, which I view as better than D'Angelo Russell, but it's kind of a up in the air type of thing, depending on if you do or not.
Okay. I guess I'd say no. So yeah.
All right. Third one. Kylelowry, straight up for D'Angelo Russell. Kylelowry is making about $28 million and has an extra year on his contract.
No.
No?
No.
I want. I mean, I remember when they entertained that idea with when I think we had Jimmy Buckets. But I think now he's a little bit older, and I think he's been showing signs of regression. I wouldn't do it with Lowry. No. Boldy?
Who's Lowry playing for now? Is he still with the Heat now?
Yeah.
A little bit of risk involved with that one. I would certainly entertain the idea. I don't know if I pull the trigger on that.
It would be much. It'd be much like the Mike Conley deal,
Right.
and the fact that you'd be getting a veteran presence in there.
Mm-hmm.
With Kylelowry having won a championship with Toronto and playing on a lot of these high leverage situations, it'd be a veteran presence to bring in.
I gotcha.
All right, so I got two more for you here. These ones are a bit more risky.
Okay.
D'Angelo Russell for Lonzo Ball and Cobywhite.
Lonzo, you really?
Yep.
Oh.
All right, who's eating whose contract on this one?
Here for you. In this scenario, you'd be trading D'Angelo Russell. You'd be getting back Lonzo Ball, who is better, undeniably, than D'Angelo Russell right now. But the guy can't stay healthy.
True.
So you would be rolling the dice on the fact that you think that you can get him healthy long term, and that you can get him to consistently.
Guess who else? Yeah, strolls in with that too. You know, so
yeah. And then you'd also be getting Cobywhite as part of the deal to fill some of that gap. He's nothing special, but he's another guard that could play for you for the remainder of this year.
So Lonzo
and LeVar.
And LeVar, yeah.
And LeVar, baby.
It's a 3-player deal, is what it is.
Yep. No. I wouldn't do it. No.
I mean, you get Lonzo's name with Cobywhite's playing ability, because obviously he's going to be one that's going to be still healthy, but you do get the media exposure with LeVar hanging out at the Target Center more times than not. So there's a lot of risk than reward in this one. But I'm going to say no on this one.
Okay.
All
and the last one, which is the headliner. BenSimmons, straight up for D'Angelo Russell.
No.
The money works.
No.
The money works.
He can't. The same deal with Rubio. He can't shoot. And he's controversial. Why would you want to bring that in? That's my question. Why?
Because he is an overall better player than D'Angelo Russell.
Okay. Well, I get that. When he's with it. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's just completely... it's been a media frenzy with him. I mean, do you want to bring that in? I
like I said, this is the risk factor of it, but this raises your ceiling.
Okay.
With BenSimmons, if you can find a way to make it work, it raises your ceiling to a championship level team. But the problem is, you are right. And it is a very risky thing. The personal, like the mental health thing, I think he's past that. Right now, to me, it's the back and it's some of the other health issues.
And I'm not saying the mental health thing. I'm just saying like him just kind of having his own media frenzy, and not talking about his mental. I mean, not talking about because of the mental health. That's what I'm saying. But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. Voldy.
I think this is a very interesting trade to propose, because if we've learned anything about pro sports in Minnesota the last few weeks, the media has no knowledge or existence of Minnesota pro sports.
True.
So if anything, this could revitalize BenSimmons' career coming to the Timberwolves, because nobody would literally care and they'd forget all about him. He can just focus on the game. Next thing you know, he's leading us to a championship. I think this is very good. But at the same time, you look at it, it is very, very risky. If you could get BenSimmons straight up for D'Lo, I don't say why not. Out of all these trades, this would probably be my number 2. So I'm definitely going to put this one in to shoot to pull the trigger on this one.
All right. All right.
Well, there we
So,
go. All right.
Now, ending this, I laid out these 5 trades. If all 5 of these trades are on the table, are you re-signing D'Lo for that 4 years, $25 million a year, or are you taking one of these trades?
I'll take one of the trade with Conley and Rudy Gay.
Yeah, I think
the others not.
I mean, I would certainly entertain a trade. I mean, you definitely want to sell the stock as high as it can, especially with D'Lo. You know, given the fact that he's been getting a lot more consistent time on the floor, and you know, I mean, we know that he's not going to be a very, you know, obviously win now trade piece or anything, but certainly something to worth invest in. Obviously, going into a contract year with what you said, 1 year left on his current contract right now.
Yeah. So it's going to expire at the end of the year.
So I mean, get something out of him while you can, and somebody else is going to have to resign him. I don't see why you don't try and get something for him right now.
It's not a bad way to put it. All right, real quick, because I know we got to get going here, but the Gobert trade, has it worked out? What are your thoughts so far on it, or is the jury still out? What do you got?
So right now, I'm not a fan. Don't get me wrong, I love Gobert as a player. I think he's a fantastic player. Bad fit. You look at the trade that the Atlanta Hawks made for DeJounte Murray. Man, I'd love to have DeJounte Murray over Rudy Gobert right now.
You did mention that to me, yeah.
Man, it would be very nice to have him instead of Rudy right now. I think we'd have a completely different outlook on our team if we had DeJounte Murray over Rudy Gobert.
Right.
So right now, I consider it an L. Not a fan. Wishing that we could go back and reverse that trade. Yeah.
Well, I can't. Yeah, I mean, I can't knock you on that. It's just, I mean, he's leading the team in rebounds with over 11, and he's averaging, 14 points a game now. I mean, that's not bad. I mean,
no,
could be worse.
I don't think Rudy is a bad player.
I'm not saying that you're saying.
Yeah. I just think there's better fits that you could have had.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Including Donovan Mitchell, DeJounte Murray. What happens if Damian Lillard decides that he wants out at some point? That'd have been real nice. There's just other options that were on the table that I'd have rather had.
Yeah. Big Dame guy, by the way.
Who isn't?
Yeah. Who isn't? So that's fair enough. All right. Well, Cole, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. And, good luck to you, because I believe probably the next time we'll talk will be when Best Guest gets put together. So you better come ready. No Rubio absurd statements or anything like that. So
got to defend my title.
you got to somehow. So we're gunning for you. So, but anyway, thanks, Cole, again, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it, Munson.